In a time where women were few and far between, she blazed a trail that still burns brightly today. A powerhouse with an astounding career that spans from stunt performer, stunt coordination, and second unit directing. She's the driving force behind Thomas FX, a company that's not just a local sensation, but an international one. Get ready to embark on a journey through cinematic history, where her legacy shines as a beacon of inspiration for aspiring stunt performers and trailblazing women everywhere. Please welcome Betty Thomas Quee to Stunt Archives.
I'm Betty Thomas Quee, and this is the Stunt Archives.
Betty Thomas Quee, how you doing today?
Really, really well, thank you.
Where did you grow up?
Oh, I'm an Albertan, born and raised in Alberta, and I lived there until I was 29, and then I moved out here when I got married. I lived there happily, and I became a paralegal. I worked in a law office for years. After that, the history of the rest of my life.
How did meeting John Thomas in Calgary influence your life's path?
Well, that was the biggest influence. That's how I got into the industry. He was working on Superman 1 as the Canadian match effects coordinator, and they were doing a sequence in Calgary and in Vulcan where the Superman kicks the football. He said, "Come on out to set with me and I'll show you." It was a Saturday, so he showed me what we were doing. So of course I inherited a couple of the solid wooden footballs. And we sort of carried on a little bit of a relationship. He lived in Vancouver at the time, and a year and a half later, it came down to, "So, are you going to move to Vancouver with me?" And I said, "No, not unless we get married." So he said, "Okay, I guess I will have to get married." So I moved out, we got married in Edmonton and moved out here. And then my life in the industry began.
Can you recall the moment you decided to seize the opportunity to become a stunt double in Klondike Fever?
Klondike Fever was the beginning totally for me. Bud Davis, a very well-known stunt coordinator and second unit director from Los Angeles, was the coordinator on Klondike Fever. And I happened to be on set that day, and we were out by the Fraser River. And he said, "You know, we have a sequence coming up in the next few days. We need doubles for the people on the boat." And he said, "Would you be interested, Betty?" So he and John and I talked about it, and I said, "Yes, of course." So of course, John Thomas, being John Thomas, we quickly, when we had the time, ran in and had a very special dive suit made for me, you know, the big, thick, quarter-inch neoprene, etc. It was a simple sequence, but nevertheless, it was still the Fraser River. So when we finished that, I said to John, "Do you think I should become a stunt girl?" And he said, "Yes, do it. So that's how it began. And after that, the training and whatever, I mean, it took years and years, but that's how I got in. That's how I really got in. It was Bud Davis to get you in there, Betty.
Describe the transformation you underwent in terms of training and preparation when you decided to explore the world of stunts.
Yeah, well, John Thomas, as excited he was about getting me in, was a brutal trainer. I mean, he was brutal. And I did a lot of training. I had a training partner. I did some gymnastics. Now, none of this to be a specialty in any of it. None of it was a specialty, but it was all, muscle building, character building, endurance, being aware of everything. So, there's a bit of judo in there, rock climbing, rope climbing. Oh my gosh, we had a 1-inch rope set up in our shop, and we would climb that, and then we put a second one up eventually, so that we always were racing from the bottom of from the floor up to the ceiling with 1 inch, but just freehand, doing it freehand with wrapping your foot around. And that was all building strength and stamina. It really was something. And then falling into cardboard boxes, and he said, "Oh, we can't do cardboard boxes. Let's get us an airbag." So we had an airbag made for us in Los Angeles and brought it up. And sure enough, I learned how to do high falls. It was never my specialty, but it really was a big deal for me to do. JJ became a star in high falls, and yeah, he did use our airbag a lot. But it was just a whole fathom of things, I had another training partner who was a trampoline guy. And JJ was a training partner for a while too. And then Thomas was very much into running And so we did running together, and we had a gym at home. So it was all rounded. It wasn't anything special. But, I got my diving ticket too, of course, so which was very helpful too.
During that time, were there a lot of airbags in BC?
No, at the time, ours was the very first one. But I think when they did the high falls, they brought they would bring an airbag up from Los Angeles. Okay. I don't, it might have been Desperado, they would have done that. But I never worked on any of those shows as having to do a high fall. That wasn't my expertise, but I got up to 40 feet. Which is, yeah. But I think we had the first one, and Alex Green used it when we were doing Death Hunt in Alberta. I think he did the forest falling from the tree. These guys all started together, and there were no effects guys, so Thomas said, I'm going to do special effects too. And he did. It kind of worked that way. But at the time, I wanted to tell you, in 1979, when I joined, the British Columbia film industry did $25 million a year. And right now, I believe last year was $4.1 billion. Yeah. So yes, we've seen it grow. And we've been called pioneers along with a lot of other guys, yeah.
How did the experience at Bob Bondurant's School of High Performance Driving and Russell Raceways solidify your expertise in stunt driving?
That actually became my specialty, and because, yes, I was able to double for children, I was able to double for females, and at the time when I started, that wasn't happening. Guys were doing doubling for women, so it was like, okay, so there's my niche. And I talked to John, I said, I'd like to learn how to do real stunt driving. He said, get to Bob Bondurant. So I signed up and I went there, and that was fantastic because you put on a big oil grease pad and driving on that. That really, really, really was the fundamentals of stunt driving. Now, a lot of guys are really good, but they can just do it because they're big and tough and they can wrench the wheel. However, I learned all of the technical ways to do it, and it took me a long ways. And then a year later, 2 years later, I went to Russell Raceways in Monterey, and that wasn't for stunt driving. That was simply to drive the formula cars. And I went down with I joined a bunch of my stunt buddies from Los Angeles there, and we had a ball for 4 days just doing racing. But that was just another finessing my driving abilities. And then, boy, how did that pay off? Well, gosh, Bud Davis came into town again, and we were doing Malone. And he said, hey, Betty, I hear you've been driving, huh? Let's do this big sequence for me. So he gave me a very cool driving sequence. And I know I did a really good job. I was very proud of what I was able to do. And before that, my stunt comrades at the time didn't know that I could drive. But after that, I got, okay, this girl knows how to drive. And I was very proud of that. That did become my specialty, yes. Especially
at a time when I'm assuming it's, like you were saying, male-dominated.
Absolutely, it's male-dominated, yes. Yeah.
What were the key challenges and experiences that shaped your pioneering role in Canada's female stunt community?
I guess I've never felt a separation between male and female. I always have had enough confidence, fortunately, to say, Smith, I can do that. If you can I can do that too. John Scott used to say that to me, and he's my other mentor. He'd say, Betty, if the guys can do it, you can do it in your sleep. So I never had that. I never found it difficult to work with men at all. Directors, nothing like that. My husband was a special effects guy, good heavens. And there were guys, boys club, yeah. And so a funny story, after I had done the driving sequence and a few other shows, I said to the guys at Stunts Canada, well, so maybe I can join Stunts Canada now? And they said, oh, no. What? Oh, John, they're not going to let me join Stunts Canada. He says, heck with them, not worry. And then I think, I don't know, shortly after that, a year or so after that, I think Yvette Ferguson somehow came in, and then they called me and said, Betty, you got to join now. I said, nah, I wasn't going to. And then shortly after that, I said yes.
The community in Vancouver itself it's very close, and everyone's willing to share knowledge and
Yep.
it's open source. So I wonder if it's like a culture that was just here that made you feel like that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. And I guess, I dare say, probably, that I'm fairly confident. If I know something, if I don't say something, I won't say anything.
Yeah.
But I just, like, even now, I feel that, women certainly maybe are underpaid or whatever. That'll always be some kind of an issue. But I think our film industry is not that way. I don't think it actually is. Maybe way back when we started, but I don't think it's that way. I do feel, as you say, that it is a community. It is a community, and it's the way there are men and women working.
Yeah, it's collaborative. Like we need to work together.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What was your most memorable stunt or sequence that you performed in your career, and what made it stand out? And it feels like that driving sequence.
Oh, the driving sequence was a big one.
Yeah.
However, I was a stunt coordinator on Jumanji, okay, and I gave myself a stunt. Well, it was driving the car with the monkeys, with the simi monkeys in it, but it was blind driving, right? So they were in there, but I had a seat in the back and I had a camera mounted by the special effects guy on the rearview mirror. And I did the rehearsal a few times. Well, in the final rehearsal, I guess what happened is the way it was connected on the mirror, it slipped. So what I was seeing, where I was going, really wasn't there.
Oh my God.
And I hit a tree at 40 miles an hour. It was one of those monster 3-foot trees in Shaughnessy. And I totaled the car, of course. That was the biggest hurt I ever had. Like, I really hurt myself, but not hospitalized or anything. But Joe Johnson was the director, and Robin Williams was there, and they all saw it, and they went, "Oh, what happened? What happened? What happened?" Anyway, so they had ambulance chasers there, and they chased them away. They said, "Get out of here! Get out of here! You don't belong here." So they took me in for a quick exam, and I was fine. But anyway, that was the one time I really did get hurt. However, there's another one, and you're going to understand why all the training was so critical. And it was a very small thing on Motherlode. Working with Charlton Heston and his son, Fraser, there was a sequence where they asked him, Kim Basinger, right? Kim Basinger's big, tall, blonde girl, and I was nothing like that. But they just needed a passenger in the airplane, the stunt airplane, which was coming in to land in the water way up in the mountain somewhere. Well, the plane, the pilot was from Los Angeles, and he'd never actually flown a float plane and learned how to fly it. So what he did, and I knew all about that because my brother-in-law was a pilot, and he was a bush pilot, so I knew all about it. He came in over the water, and you're supposed to make ripples or at least drop something in so that when you come back, you have some depth perception. You understand how high you are. Well, we came back in, and oh my God, the plane nosedive, tipped on the left, on the other side, and we went under. And it was we almost both died. But fortunately, I had my hand on my seatbelt and the door, and as the plane was going down, for some reason, I opened it, and the water came in, and it saved us because we would have drowned. Pilot gets up his hand, he says, "What happened? What happened? What did we hit?" I said, "We didn't hit anything. It's like mirror water." He couldn't see it. So he said, "Okay, let's swim to the shore." And I said, "No, this is glacier water. We can't do that." But anyway, it's a long story, but we got saved and got out of there. But that was very, very close. But I feel that my training and all the things I learned about and working out and stuff, that probably saved my life.
Were there any injuries or close calls that you had during your career? And how did you deal with the physical and emotional aspects of recovery?
Well, the Jumanji accident was really lasting. I still have. I was very fortunate that I didn't break anything. It hurt my pride, of course, but when we figured out why it happened, when the mirror was askew, it was like, oh my goodness. So, whatever happened, it doesn't matter. But that was a really hard one for me, and I was in tremendous pain. My leg was black from my hip down to my toes, the one side. In fact, the makeup girl said, Betty, can we see it, see what it looks like? I said, yeah, of course. But that was very painful, and emotionally, yeah. I didn't have anybody at the time. Thomas had passed away, but the special effects coordinator on the show, and his name slips my mind. He came to the hospital with me and made sure I was okay, and I was able to get home. But it hurt. It really hurt. Physically, really hurt. Emotionally, mentally, yeah, I'm tough. I'm tough. I can handle it.
How do you view the evolution of the stunt industry and the increasing opportunities for women in stunts compared to when you started?
I talk to John often about it, and it's like when I started, basically everybody around here was starting, or they had been in it for 4 or 5 years before I came, or maybe even 8 years before I came. Yeah. But everybody was a team, a community, and we worked together. And I look back on what I did, and oh my God, some of the stuff is just amateur now that I see how things are functioning and how they're made. Everything I did is like a little kid, like really did I do that? But that's how it was. When in flying became another big thing, where Thomas was he did the first aerial rigging. For example, the cables, we flew on 1/8 inch cables, when you're 60 feet in the air. And that's and we would blacken those cables so you couldn't see them. Now, put the cables in, make them obvious so that you can rotor them out or whatever. Yeah, just paint them out. So that is the other. And then the way they're doing the high falls now, and the way they're doing the explosions and the rams it's just so sophisticated now that I'm very proud to have been in the very beginning. Yeah. Boy, what I did was pale in comparison to what they did. However, it was new territory, and darn glad that I can be called a pioneer.
Can you share more about your transition from performing stunts to coordinating them, and how it became your favorite aspect of the industry?
Oh, yeah, coordinating. Yeah, it was actually John Scott who said, Betty, time to coordinate. He said, if the guys can do it, you can do it in your sleep. You can be a coordinator. And I said, really? You think so? I said, yeah, you can. So he took me under his wing on The Boy Who Could Fly. And I co-coordinated with him. And I was really good. I was flying too. It was a fantastic opportunity. And then after that, he said, yeah, just go. Just put your name in and go for it. You can coordinate. And so I did. I went and put my name in, and I kept getting work. And it became really my favorite. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it because I was able to do, and of course the driving sequences were my really big favorites. The fight sequences, not so much, because I didn't really learn that. There are guys who are far better than I could ever imagine, even though with John Woo's shows, oh my God, I hired the best martial arts guys around, and they did the work. It wasn't me. They were the ones who did all of that, but then I did all the other stuff. But driving, the guys are really good drivers, and putting a driving sequence together with all the little toys and stuff, it really was where I felt that I shone, and I just loved it. So coordinating, after that, I could pick and choose if I was coordinating, if I wanted to double for somebody or do a gig on it, but it didn't turn out that way. I gave the work to the guys and the girls who deserved it, and I think There weren't many girls. Marnie,
Yeah,
yes,
I was just gonna say.
yeah, Marnie, sweet Marnie Yang.
Yeah.
I do believe I brought her into the business.
Yeah, she was mentioning
And I think it was for Diggers. I hope I'm saying the right one. I think it was for Diggers. She was just the perfect double for Christina Ricci. So after that, Marnie didn't look back because Marnie was really, really good and is really, really good. And I know that she's fantastic. And same with Melissa Stubbs. What can I say? You know, Melissa, sweet Melissa, just those girls have really shown how women can grow into those positions. And they can direct, and they can second unit direct, and they can do directing, and they can do fighting, and they can do all of that. So proud to have been part of their beginnings. I was fortunate to be asked by John Woo to be his stunt coordinator on John Woo's Once a Thief, the pilot. And I had a moment to talk to him and say, why did you pick me? He said, well, women have the ability to do things with grace. I went, oh, well, thank you, sir. And so I was his stunt coordinator on that show, and he was a brilliant man. What can I say? Everybody knows John Woo. And when it went to series the following year, they didn't do the series in Vancouver, they did it in Toronto. He wasn't doing it, but his production company was, and Peter Marshall. And anyway, they asked if I would go to Toronto and be second unit director, and I went, oh, really? This is amazing. So I think I earned that, and it was an absolute blast being a second unit director in Toronto. They're really talented guys and girls there as well. So that really was an honor for me, and I felt that I really had it together at that time. If that's organization, I guess maybe I must have done my job.
Building a studio and becoming the first place to rent stunt equipment in BC is an impressive achievement. How did this change the landscape of filmmaking? How did this impact the industry's growth?
John Thomas was also a special effects person. He became more and more special effects, even though he and Alex Green and the Wardlow guys did the fight sequences on Klondike Fever up to their ears in mud and everything. But he really, his passion really was special effects, even though he's a great stunt guy, and he said, I'm not doing that stuff anymore. So we bought some equipment, he bought equipment, and as far as stunt, we were able to encourage the guys to come and practice on our airbag. That was always really good. And we set up equipment rentals for the industry, special effects. We sold cardboard boxes, things like that. And of course, stunt pads. We had the porta pits, tons and tons of that stuff. And we were sort of the first people to do that. And then when I started pulling back out of it, I think Melissa and Mike Mitchell started their little company, and they were renting that stuff. It became pretty high maintenance for us, so we didn't do it anymore. But yeah, we were the first ones to kind of do that, which is why Thomas Effects was sort of a pioneer. When films wanted to come to British Columbia, the film commissioner was Justice Green. That was his first year too, in 1979, I think. He would bring the producers and directors over to our facility and say, see, we have infrastructure in British Columbia. So I was very proud to be part of that. You know, Tommy Lee Wallace, who did It and The Sea Will Tell, he came over here, and we had to do there are a lot of, well, you probably know a lot about It. There are a lot of gags, and so we had to set up a whole bunch of them here. And so he came here and he said, wow, look at this place. So it was pretty thrilling to have, you know, people like that come in here and say, yeah, you know, there is infrastructure here. So yeah, I do believe I know Thomas Effects and William F. White. They're some of the beginners here.
Can you elaborate on your role as a stunt coordinator on productions like The Edge, and working with talented individuals like Alex Green, Charles Andre, Mike Mitchell, and Marnie Ng?
Oh boy. The Edge was amazing. Anthony Hopkins, Tony, he made us call him Tony. I think his birthday is one day before mine, not the same age.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful working with him and with Alex Baldwin. Alex Baldwin. My goodness, sorry, mind blank. Anyway, the two of them were fantastic. They're fantastic. I spent a lot of time with them, and being a coordinator with big people like that. Ooh. But it was fantastic because I was able to get Alex Green as a double for Anthony Hopkins, and they became very good friends. In fact, Alex said, "You can't believe it, but Tony asked me for dinner last night." And I said, "Yeah? Guess what we had? We had beans on toast."
That's amazing.
It's amazing, yeah. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So they became good friends, I know. And we, Tony he didn't like water. He wasn't very comfortable when we had to do the tank stuff.
Yeah.
So we were able to rent a swimming pool in Canmore. And we did water safety and stuff there with them. And he was able to, go underwater and stuff. I mean, that's a personal thing, I know, but it was amazing because he was so vulnerable, but yet we were there. We had the best safety guys, to keep him safe. Yeah. Then Charles Andre, I hired him to double for Robert De Niro on This Boy's Life. And he was a really good double. And De Niro was everybody out of my eye. Everybody out of my eye. You have to respect the people you work with, boy. Charles, and then who else was there Mike Mitchell. Are you kidding? Mike Mitchell. I brought him in for Robin Williams. And he was a really good double, and I know he worked for Robin quite a lot after that. And I was proud to do that because these guys are good. Like, they're really good at what they do. Yeah. So I was proud to do that. I wish somebody would have given me to somebody to double other than Patty Duke. So there, Marnie doubling on Diggers. She's fantastic. So fabulous, talented people. I just love them all.
There was a gag you did with Charles Andre where I believe he had to jump a motorcycle onto the top of an SUV.
Yes, that was John Woo's Once a Thief. We had to fly him, and Mike Bazzino was a stunt coordinator on it, who was a stunt guy too. But yeah, we had to fly him in the alley. We had to fly the motorbike on the alley. It was John Woo said, "This is what we want to do," so that's what we did. Yeah, and it worked. But he's a good guy on a motorbike. Oh my God, Jim Dunn, David Jaycox, Ken Kirschinger. Fantastic guys, really, really talented.
The fact that you established BC's first FX shop and prop house is truly remarkable. What inspires you to venture into these areas? And can you describe some of the most memorable projects or creations that have emerged from your prop house?
We had gone down to Los Angeles to buy some equipment and stuff. It was always special effects stuff, right? And so MGM was selling off their breakaway glass room. How you make breakaway glass. So we thought, let's buy it, John said. So they brought it home. I had no idea how to make it. But that's how I started making breakaways. No training with anybody, nothing. I just kind of...
No YouTube.
Yeah, just kind of did it. I think maybe I may have lost my shirt on the first breakaways I ever made, but you just stick with it and just do it. And pouring sheet glass, nobody had ever done that before, so we've been doing that since then. That became sort of a big thing. Then we started making rubber guns and knives, and oh my God, I'm not a prop maker. I'm not a trained prop maker, but eventually I was able to bring in a few people to help who knew their stuff. But hopefully that was a basis for others to start doing their own thing. But it was something that I did while training to be a stunt person. You just do what you do. The people who started in special effects, most of these guys were here sweeping our floors at one time. I mean, we had overhead, there was a lot of work here, but most of the guys started sweeping the floors and doing stuff and working their way up, and then eventually doing their own shows.
What are some qualities that a good leader should have?
Humor.
Humor? Okay. So humor, definitely, I like that.
Yeah, I think you have to have humor. And you have to be innovative. You have to be able to turn on a dime. When something comes at you that is unexpected, have plan A, B, C, and D waiting, because you know at some point they're all going to be needed. Being prepared and being knowledgeable on what the sequence is, and trusting yourself and trusting your gut. A lot of it is gut. If something doesn't feel right, you better talk to somebody about it, or don't have them do it, and being honest about it. And if you're afraid, and I was afraid a lot when I was doing stunts, but you got to face the fear, and then when you're ready to go, you just focus, because if you change that focus, it'll change the result.
Yeah.
So it's keeping your head together.
What motivated your decision to shift your focus from stunt coordination to building green screen studio and operating Thomas FX?
Well, I did some second unit directing, and that was great. And then I directed an episode of Mentors, and that kind of turned me off directing, because the way I had it edited, the producer changed it completely. So I thought, well, this isn't my work. And I thought, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. And so when I was finishing in Toronto, my assistant here, I said, let's build a studio, a green screen studio. And there isn't one in Vancouver. It was small. It's only 5,000 square feet. And I came home and decided I wasn't going to do stunts anymore. And I spent a whole bunch of money, and we did a green screen studio, and to this day we still have it. Then it's very strange how I got Canadian Woman Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 1998 for impact on local economy. And that was thrilling, even though I never thought I was even a business person. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was, but I guess I was. But the company went along for a while, but when I was in Toronto, it started deteriorating a little bit. And then in a couple of years, boy, I need some changes. And I met John Quee, and he said, hey, I'll help you with your company. So he came in and he turned our company around, and my God, if we're not snow and ash manufacturers now, we don't do special effects.
Yeah.
We quit that a long time ago. Yeah. We don't do stunts. I know the coordinators call me now and then and say, come on out, Danny's coming out.
Yeah.
And I did that maybe once or twice, but I just don't do that anymore.
Any advice for up-and-coming stunt performers?
If you have a passion, do it. If you want to become a stunt person, then go and do what you think you're really, really good at. But be fairly good at everything else, because it all helps make you into a really good, solid, trustworthy performer. It's a lot of hard work. If you set into that dream, then be prepared to, we maybe work a second or third job for a while, because it doesn't come that easily. Yeah. And then you have to get known. You have to show your stuff to the coordinators or to your other possible stunt performers. You have to share that so that people know who you are.
Yeah.
That you can do it, but stick with it. Prepare to fall on your face a few times. It's a journey, so enjoy it.
As you reflect on your journey from 1979 to present, what other significant experiences or stories stand out in your mind, and how have they shaped the person you've become today?
Starting in the beginning was phenomenal, okay? John Thomas was an incredible guy, and he was a visionary, but he was able to make things happen, manifest it. And we were a great team together, as we did stuff. We were nuts. We did stuff together. And things went swimmingly. Our careers were really, really good. I got to go to lots of ridiculous places like Tahiti and Hawaii, working with Tommy Lee Wallace on and the Seawell Tell. It's an easy job. Wow. And while I was in Tahiti, John was doing K2, and he was on the glacier. So we would talk on satellite. Incredible. And then a year later, he suddenly passed away. He had a brain tumor, and he was gone in 9 days. So I spent 8 very, very difficult years. I did stunt coordinating and second unit during that time. And it was difficult, really difficult. That was biggest emotional impact of my entire life to that point. And in 2001, I met John Quee. And he came into this company to help me turn it around because I didn't like the direction the business was going. And he's a turnaround expert. And he became CEO. And then we got married. We don't do the same thing that we did way back then, 30, 40 years ago, but we manufacture now and we serve the world globally. Our website is huge. We have customers in like 82 countries, and we have dealers, and so it's a new exciting world, and it's been a journey. To me, it is a common theme. If your partner and you have a common theme, no one will separate you. And I had that with John Thomas, and I'm so blessed to have that with John Quee. We love this industry, and so here we still are.